With the war in Afghanistan entering its second decade and political turmoil racking the Middle East, Flinders University brought international experts to a major conference in Adelaide last month to discuss the transition from conflict to development in the world's hotspots. Dr. Tim Bird from King's College London and Professor Andrew Mack, formerly of Flinders University and now at Simon Fraser University in Canada, gave insights to the current situation in Afghanistan and offered their thoughts on what lessons might be learned from the international community's experience in Iraq and Afghanistan that could be applied in post-war Libya.
Well, I think that the first thing to say is history is unlikely to be kind regarding the intervention in Afghanistan. There's been a lack of coherence, a lack of clear strategic thinking in the West in general, the United States in particular.
When the West, the Americans essentially originally intervened, it was to get rid of Al-Qaeda. They got rid effectively of Al-Qaeda. There's a tiny sprinkling of Al-Qaeda troops left in Afghanistan today. And then they were there essentially fighting the Taliban. But the Taliban wasn't really a threat to the United States, and most Americans sort of realized this. So over a long period of time, in every one of these so-called asymmetric conflicts, as the body count begins to rise, as more and more Americans come back zipped up in green plastic bags, support for the war falls inexorably in these countries.
The international development community will carry on being there if they're allowed to be. We have a tendency to talk about how we are going to behave. The unknown element is how conflict groups are going to behave in Afghanistan.
This is probably the last one of these really big interventions that we're going to see for a long time. After Vietnam, we had something called the Vietnam syndrome, which meant that we weren't going to fight another land war in Asia. Now I think we're going to have an Afghanistan and Iraq syndrome, and that's going to last a long time. Libya was very, very different because Libya did not involve the United States in a major way at all. It involved the French. It wasn't terribly expensive from the Allied point of view.
The issue for Libya is less what's happening now is what's going to happen in the future. We have very little knowledge of who we're talking about when we talk about the rebels. In all these conflict environments, the opposition are never the opposition. The opposition are a promiscuous melange of different groups with different agendas, different approaches.
Flinders lecturer in international studies, Dr. Alexandra Quaqueta, said the conference highlighted the complexity of security and development issues and highlighted the benefits of Flinders offering a new security major in its Bachelor of International Studies next year.
Security themes are extremely relevant today for all sorts of practitioners, for analysts in the financial sector, for analysts in the mining and oil industries, for doctors working in hospitals. There are different types of security themes that filter into our everyday lives. Non-violent security threats such as climate change, or internal conflicts, civil wars, humanitarian interventions. Australia is part of missions in Afghanistan, in East Timor, and the Solomon Islands. Understanding Australia's role in these countries is very important. We want to educate a new generation of students with knowledge on security issues.